So the news just keeps coming. The Bay Area prices have fallen 25% since April's peak. Then we have this article: Dallas-Fort Worth home prices have fallen off their peak 10% from June. And then Barclays analysis estimate home prices could fall by another 10%. So what we're going to do today with my good friend Brent Starts is we're going to break down all this information and let you know what's happening, not only nationwide, but what's going on here in the great state of Florida, especially South Florida. But if this is the first time you've been on my channel, my name is Lee Brickey, and on this channel, we talk everything real estate. So if you're interested in buying or selling a home anywhere in Palm Beach County or the Treasure Coast, or you're interested in buying investment real estate, then you're going to want to subscribe, and it's completely free, and it really helps me grow this channel. So again, I'm joined by my good friend Brent Starks from Unitas Lending to help me unpack all this data and news articles that have hit here in January. So Brent, how you doing, man?
Doing great, Lee. Great to be back.
So we've been talking about what's going on here for the last few weeks because we're seeing the market pick up. It's really surprising to me how much the market is actually picked up here. Month of January, we're busy all through December, but January seems to be really, moving fast. So let's go through a few of these articles, and then I want to get your opinion on a few things. But I would like for people to understand really, just in the last couple of weeks, what's happening here and what we're finding that's coming out of NAR and from the media, because, we're seeing these price drops. I really don't believe the price drops are coming from a place of the average price of homes. They're coming from the peak of homes. What's your thoughts there?
Well, yeah, and I think, some of these statistics are coming from ask prices versus sold too. So you're seeing where, people ask, and they're reducing their prices, but they were just really, their expectations have been set at, 20-25% appreciation per year, which is unrealistic, right?
Right.
So some of that's going on. So I think that, a lot of people are like, yeah, I'll sell my home if I can get X for it. But I think that the reality is, if you're looking at the market, and you just basically take out, last 18 to 24 months, we're really at a 2019, 2020 market, really. That's pretty much the way I see it.
And I think that, and looking at, we're going to show some numbers here in Palm Beach County and Martin County and St. Lucie County in the video. But we're going to show the December numbers. We don't have the January numbers yet, but I think they're going to probably be pretty similar. I was thinking that we'd see a lot more inventory in January, but it seems like we're not. Anything that comes on the market that is, say, in really good shape, like new, especially if it has a pool, it's gone fairly quickly. Yeah. And we're seeing new construction just flying off the shelves. And I know for a lot of people, they don't understand why that is. And hopefully today we can unpack some of that and help them understand why this is, because I think the Florida real estate market, as we've said in the past, is a little bit more insulated than the rest of the country because of the amount of people moving here and the amount of companies that have moved here already that are still hiring. Let's look at a few articles here and just kind of burn through them and not spend a bunch of time. But pending sales rise for the first time since May 2022. So we're seeing sales going up. They're still down 34% year over year. But here's the thing, Brent, when we look at this stuff down year over year, who wants the market we just went through in 2020, 2021 and 2022? No one. I mean, no. It's an unsustainable market. Prices have gotten ridiculously high. The Fed held on to almost zero rates for way too long. In my opinion, it was a political move. And they've put the country in a really bad spot where now the Fed is now controlling the market.
Right. Yes. And they're meeting tomorrow. Actually, they're meeting today and tomorrow. And we're expecting a quarter point hike and then maybe a pause or just one more quarter point hike. That's pretty much baked in right now as far as the Fed futures numbers. And so, like you say, Lee, they held on to the zero interest rates for way too long. And, hey, this inflation, it's transitory. And then all of a sudden it's hitting the panic button. And, then it's 3/4, bumps, almost a full percentage point at every meeting for, 4 or 5 meetings. So that, that's it takes about a year for those rate hikes to really fully impact the economy. economy. So I think, what we're going to see, the mortgage market, by the way, has already responded in the longer end of the yield curve, right? So even though, Fed funds is a short-term interest rate, 30-year mortgages are not. It's a 30-year investment for an institutional investor to buy that mortgage. And, I think what we'll see, is, interest rates have already backed off. We were almost in the mid sevens, just a 3 months ago, and now we're down below sixes, if not lower. So that's what we're seeing anyway from the mortgage market. They're already responding, anticipating that yield to drop on the 30-year treasuries and 30-year mortgage market.
Now, one of the CPI, and I'll ask you this, one of the CPI indicators was obviously oil prices, right? Oil prices have come down, gas prices have come down. But China was also in a full lock. So now you have them coming out of that full lockdown. A lot of experts in the, in the equity markets believe that you're going to see gas prices go back up here soon because oil prices are going to start creeping up. What's your thought there? And then will that CPI report, do you think, affect mortgages? Because if the Fed keeps moving hard and hurts mortgage rates anymore, I think we could, we're heading for a recession no matter what is the consensus. Also, the consensus is it could be a light recession because the job market's so strong right now. That's one of the Fed's problems, is they're dealing with a very strong job market. And I got a lot of response off my video a couple of weeks ago on, is the Florida market going to collapse? And in that, people are like, oh, we'll just wait, because we're going to see a lot more pain coming here in the future. But do you think the Fed's going to keep pushing the pain till they destroy the real estate market and the equity markets?
They really can't push it too awful far. I mean, really, the aggressive rate hikes that they've implemented just in the last year, they're unprecedented, really. And so taking away the late 70s, that's the only other time that that was really done. As far as percentage of interest rates, and basically essentially doubled then, and they've essentially doubled or almost tripled, as far as mortgages. And so that slows things down to a crawl in most areas of the country. Like you said, Lee, we're a little more insulated here because we have such a tremendous number of people moving from the northeastern United States. And of course, in our area specifically, we've got a lot of migration from Miami-Dade County, Broward County, in other words, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, coming up to this area because of the affordability, less traffic, and of course, all the same benefits that Florida has as far as no income tax and all that stuff remains as well. So I think, we're a little insulated, but I think overall, I think, these hikes are going to, they're really starting to impact people, but, something needs to be done with inflation as well. So some of that pain was necessary. Hopefully we have a, somewhat soft landing. We'll see.
I just don't, I was watching I told you about, I was watching a real estate investor I have some respect for. He's a YouTuber. And they were talking about, how they lost, $200,000 in the market here in South Florida, trying to flip houses. And my thinking was, well, who's trying to flip houses when you don't even know what real prices are, right? Because I talked to some agents and they're like, oh, these are real prices. And I'm like, no, they're not. They're not real prices. I mean, you have too many bidding wars for this to be real. So too many people throwing cash around, and that's going to end. And when that ends, we're going to roll back into a regular market. And that's what we're rolling back into right now. Now, neither one of us believe that, and no one in the entire industry believed that interest rates would get this high. But one of the thoughts were that, I could see interest rates going to 10%. I think if you think interest rates could go to 10%, you're not paying attention to the equity markets, because I've said it before that the Fed doesn't really care about if you and I have a job, or if we lose our jobs or our houses or anything else. I mean, their job is, one thing is to keep inflation down, but their other job is to make sure they don't collapse the entire market either. And, these are people and they plan to move on with their lives. And if they collapse the entire equity markets and the real estate market, after they said the things that they did, like transitory inflation and all this kind of stuff, I really believe that any career after the Fed would be completely over, right? I mean,
I agree. Yeah, I mean, they really, you're going to have to eat crow, because I mean, I think you're right. They really had to do something, and do something quickly, because inflation was quickly becoming a serious issue. And like we've talked about before, it really doesn't impact the wealthy. It impacts the
No,
middle
no,
class.
and but so I told you today, we're getting a lot of calls right now from first-time buyers. I'm probably getting one almost every day, and
Hmm.
a lot of them are looking for homes in the 300s. And
Hmm.
unfortunately, there's really nothing in the 300s, and especially here in South Florida, if you end up buying something in the 300s, like 350, 360, you're getting a fixer-upper. And the problem is more than likely that roof needs to get done too, and that runs
Frame.
you into an insurance problem, which we need to get our insurance agent on eventually and have a call with her so people can understand what's going on here with insurance. But if you're
Yeah.
purchasing a house less than 5 years old, your insurance is going to be somewhere around $1,800 to $2,200 a year. If you're purchasing a home with a roof over 10 years, 15 years, especially 15 years, you're looking at $3,000 to $4,000 a month, and that's money you could be putting towards a home. So fixer uppers are really sitting on the market right now, or stuff that doesn't need to be fixed up is selling. The 350 market is kind of gone until especially in where it used to be everywhere even at the beginning of last year, but in Port St. Lucie it's gone until they start building some townhomes, which that's about to happen. Cadence is about to build a whole bunch of townhomes, Mattamy Homes and Tradition. So we'll see what happens in the future with rates, but I don't see rates going past where they are now. I think they could fluctuate a little bit up and down, or they could go sideways. We should see rates improving, don't you believe?
I believe so too. We're right now, you've got it's called a yield spread between the 2-year Treasury and the 10-year Treasury. And what that means is basically there's a higher yield, in other words, a higher interest rate paid on 2-year Treasury bonds when the United States borrows money, right? They're paying, that spread is 0.75%. Now, as opposed to the 10-year Treasury, which is providing a lower rate of return, which is around 3.5 right now. So the reason that happens is, people are betting on the longer end of the yield curve coming down. In other words, hey, that 2-year Treasury is yeah, it's attractive now, but we think rates are going to come down. That's not going to be the norm. And the longer in the yield curve, we're going to be happy with 3.5%. And the market, the bond auctions the last couple of weeks have been successful. So it's indicating that's screaming, if you will, inflation, or not inflation, but a recession.
Right.
That, hey, things are going to slow down. When things slow down, then eventually what happens is the Fed has to reverse trend, right? They've got to pause, right, which I think we're seeing right now. We're going to see a 0.25 point bump tomorrow. It's a 98% or more baked in right now to the Fed futures market. So it's a foregone conclusion. They don't like to surprise the market. So I completely believe that's what's going to happen tomorrow morning. We'll see a pause time, and then we'll see, kind of a look-see and see at what time do we begin to cut rates again,
Right.
maybe a year, but there'll be a pause period for a substantial amount of time, I believe.
I just believe that we have to get our oil and gas coming in. We have to get more oil and gas in the market so that we can bring down prices, because otherwise you're not going to bring down prices if truck drivers and trains are spending as much money as they are on diesel fuel.
Absolutely.
It just is what it is.
It can be manipulated. That's the thing.
Right.
Oil's the one factor, the variable that can be manipulated, because no matter what the Fed does, if the price of oil is going up.
Well, they telegraphed that too a couple of weeks ago when they said, we don't have control over the energy markets. And I think that was a kind of, hey, look, we're doing our best over here, but we can only do so much. I really believe that's what that was. I mean, if you read between the lines, I read between the lines a lot, maybe at
your demise, right?
Demise at my demise, right? But I try to read between the lines, and kind of feel my gut, and that's kept me going through my life. And I've made some good decisions, I've made some bad decisions, but usually this kind of stuff, I can kind of see the ball coming down the road, and I really believe that we just can't, they just can't control it. So that 2%, 2.5% that they're pushing for is just going to be impossible until we deal with the real problem here, and that's price of fuel.
Well, the personal consumption expenditure report, year over year came in at 4.4% the last reading. And so in some of those higher months are dropping off. So, right now the Fed funds rate is technically above inflation, technically.
Right.
And it'll just take a time, for that being the case, where inflation will certainly, come under control as far as consumer goods. But like you say, but oil, it's not just, it's the manufacture and everything, it's the shipping of everything. I mean, it's really oil drives a big part of that inflation number.
Right.
So, we got to
let's jump back into this real quick. And so other good news coming out, like I said, this came out January the 27th. Housing market has started to recover. While the phrase is not out of the woods yet, it's still used. Redfin economists say that market probably hit its cycle low through the second week of November. They think that, the market's the prices are kind of bottoming out, and they're seeing the market begin to pick up a little bit here. And then housing confidence up a bit from October lows. So Fannie Mae sentiment index hit a record low, but is rose in December due to increased expectations that mortgage rates and home prices may decrease. So, depending on where in the market or in the United States, could see prices continue to decrease, obviously. And then we see new home sales increased by 2.3% in December compared to November, but down again 26.6% from December 2021, which we don't want those kind of numbers, because right now we're in a housing affordability issue, and that would just continue to make that worse and worse and worse. So we want things to settle down a little bit. And then we have this 92%. I mean, we've been saying this for a while. January 25th, 92% of millennial home buyers say inflation has impacted their purchase plans, but most are plowing ahead anyway, study shows. And we're seeing this on the ground right now. We have a lot of millennials working with us, especially in this state, where, you have engineers, all types of high paying jobs. These millennials are making very good money, because I read an article the other day that a lot of baby boomers retired over COVID because they just didn't want to deal with it. And they figured, okay, let's just get out, right? And retire. And so millennials have taken those jobs, and because they're educated, and these are high paying jobs. So you have a lot of millennials now making, we see their income all the time, 28, 29, 30-year-olds making strong six figures. I mean, 25 and 26-year-olds here in Florida making strong six figures. Yeah. And my son, we have a couple of clients we've been working with that are that are making, 25, 26, 27 years old, who have graduated college, taking good jobs and making, six-figure jobs. So this is something that is a big deal, because millennials are starting families now, and they need housing. And then, let's go through these numbers real quick, because, one of the beatings I got from my video was, hey, things are down. So, we were looking at, I'm going to be totally honest with you. We were going through 2020, 2021, and the beginning of 2022. Agents were looking at what houses were actually selling for, right? Because that's how you had to gear the market. You had to see what they were actually selling for. Now what's happened is we're seeing price decreases. So we need to look at the medium sold price, because that's what we're going to average the market on. And that's also how we're going to look at what the appraisal would be on the house, right? Is what the medium price of that house is what the appraisal is going to be. And appraisals didn't matter for almost 2 years, because there was so much cash in the market, and lenders were watching the market move up. So they were just doing appraisal waivers.
Like we're doing
appraisal waivers. So so we did tons of those, right? Because people coming in with, half down, 20, 30, 40, 50% down if they were financing. And then there was just tons of cash business. So we've kind of going back to that median sell price, right? Because that's going to be your appraisal price. So this is Palm Beach County. So year over year now, so we're going on this medium sales price. The difference between December last year and December 2021, we were still up 18%. Right. And you can see that inventory was increasing, but not by that much. And then you go to, Martin County, right? You see number of homes went up, 100, less than 100, 4.5%, right? But we're seeing 13.8% increase in this market also. And then we go to Port St. Lucie, where you're looking at almost a 24% increase in equity from last year, from last December to this December, and inventory went down.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you right now, inventory is going down because new construction is running out of spec homes. I mean, the number gets lower and lower every day that I look at. So we have January coming up, and we're going to see more inventory coming on the market, I think. But I just don't see that much more inventory coming on the market because of rates being so high, because 80% of homeowners are now under 3% on their mortgages. So they've got to get to a point where they at least can buy down close to where they are if they're going to move from a home that they've been in for a while.
Exactly.
And let's go through that. I mean,
yeah.
Look at these numbers, man. I mean, this was 2022 price slowdown, but look at the profits here in Florida. I mean, Fort Myers was up 51%, Ocala up 49 to 82%. One of my best friends in the world, Ron, lives there, and it's like, it's crazy, right? I mean, that's just a horse town, right?
Right.
Naples, 47 to 74%. Port St. Lucie, 62% to 62.8% to 84.8. I mean, 84%. Miami, 42 to 61. Orlando, 42 to 62. Tampa, 43 to 73. 43 to 58 in Jacksonville. These are the hot markets in Florida right now, where retirees are moving and where people looking for jobs are moving. And look at these numbers. So you think about all this equity just in a year, right? Where's a foreclosure coming from?
Yeah.
If they lose their job, right? And if the market actually came down, let's say it came down 20%, you still are sitting on a ton of equity because you had equity from 20, you've been in the house. So if you were in the house for
2021,
right. So in some markets, you're upside down if you bought last year. But in Florida, look at these numbers are ridiculous.
One of the articles I saw, Lee, was if you bought FHA, last year, and you'd be upside down, but you realize that you finance the upfront mortgage insurance, so you start with just like basically 1% equity,
right?
You know what I mean? So if it moves the needle just 1%, I don't think that's any reason to walk away from your home, So
right, no, yeah. And I mean, people are going to stay in their home,
right,
if they're FHA. Because they bought it FHA to stay in it. They're not investing
right.
If they bought the home FHA. Most people are buying to stay in it.
It's owner occupied.
And then talking about foreclosures, these are the foreclosure numbers. This is it, right? Yeah. So 2008 we saw was a buyer's market. Now I will tell you, we are in a balanced market in our markets right now. Palm Beach County and Martin County and St. Lucie County is more of a balanced market than it's ever been. But we're still not in a seller's market. I mean, a buyer's market. Sorry, we're still not in a buyer's market. But if we look at foreclosures, I mean, 2022 we have some more foreclosures. But look at 2019, look at 2018, look at 2017. I mean, Florida, we were in bidding wars in these years, especially in Jupiter, Palm Beach Gardens, Port St. Lucie. When you ran into a really nice house, you were in a bidding war. Wellington, bidding wars in Wellington, bidding wars in Boca. Hot markets, Delray, hot markets were having bidding wars.
Yeah. Since
2016. So if we're looking at foreclosures and real estate investors, I can tell you, I have a ton of friends that are investors, and that's all they do for money. And they're not near finding the foreclosures that they need in this state. They're just not there. And this is nationwide. So foreclosures are still super low. Super low. And then we run into this realtor.com, which, they say that 5.5 million homes are needed. Bank of America says 4 million homes. I like Freddie Mac, because they're really tied into the mortgage industry, but they say 3.8 million homes are needed to bring the market up to a normal market. John Burns Consulting 1.7 million, and Moody Analysis 1.6 million, Morgan Stanley 2 million. You can look at these numbers and say, well, I don't agree with this one, or I don't agree with this one, but the consensus is what you need to take a look at. And the consensus is we still don't have enough inventory for demand.
Right.
And that's going to keep the market from falling to crashing or falling apart, which a lot of people are I think they're hoping will happen. But I don't think that's a good thing either for buyers or sellers. You don't want to destroy something so you can get a good deal, because then it just doesn't, there's no win-win in that, in my opinion. So I think that's not healthy.
No, you're right, Lee. And I think, it's really important to point out too. I mean, basically in very general terms, and, supply and demand terms, there's a housing shortage. There's just not enough homes. There's not enough roofs, and you've got to live somewhere. So either you're going to own or you're going to rent. And so, a housing shortage is a market where rates on rentals go up as well, as far as the cost of rent.
And we'll get into that, but look at active new listings. I mean, so you have active properties on the market here. You can see this graph right here. This is active listings right now. Look at new listings coming on the market. This is nationwide in December. Now, obviously, December is a slower month, so let's look at January when the numbers come out. I don't necessarily think it's going to be that much of a difference. I don't think you're going to see a flood of inventory. And again, I go back to the fact that if a house is sitting on the market, because we're starting to get some people that want to, some clients that want to list, right? And my thing with them is, okay, we need to make the house perfect, whatever that takes. The walls need to be painted. Everything needs to be clean. You need to pressure clean your house. You need to have it professionally cleaned. We need to stage it properly. It needs to look perfect as possible, because when folks are walking into homes right now, they are not wanting anything that they have to repair. And if the house doesn't look very inviting, they're out the door looking at the next one. And then a lot of this inventory sitting on the market is for sales, meaning that the people have to move, they've passed away, or they're going into a retirement home. And a lot of retirement homes, especially in Port St. Lucie, if you're looking in Port St. Lucie, retirement home and people passing away is a big chunk of the inventory coming on the market. So that inventory, unless it was a new house and it was a second home or they didn't live in it very long, is dated. They didn't put any money in it, because older people tend not to upgrade their homes. So you're finding these homes and they're just sitting there. And until the agents who listed them get the price right, and in my opinion get some incentives on those homes, they're going to keep sitting, because they're fighting new construction. We don't have as much of it in Palm Beach County because it's very expensive unless you go far out west, but in Port St. Lucie it's right off 95 in the turnpike. So a 30-minute drive to Palm Beach County tends to look a lot better when you're talking about $1 million. All right, so Brent, let's take a look at this graph. This shows the housing market short millions of homes. So this graph just came out. It's a Lance Lambert graph put this together. Realtor.com says we're short 5.24 million homes. Bank of America says short 4 million. Freddie Mac 3.8. Morgan Stanley 2 million. John Burns Consulting, 1.7 million, and Moody Analytics, 1.6 million. So again, we're looking at shortage of homes, and it really doesn't matter to me what the numbers are and how big they are. It's just the consensus that we need more inventory countrywide, right? This is all over the United States. So here in Florida, obviously, we're going to have less inventory than the rest of the country because we're the #1 state for people to move to right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're seeing. And part of this is millennials, right? The only way to really solve this problem is, we need to build more homes, and, people are going to live somewhere. Rents are going to be, pushed up. So that's the other part of the equation. The only thing I can think of that might change that or reduce that number without building homes, we start going to multi-generational housing, where, grandparents move in and things like that. Other than that, really, that statistic is really telling where supply and demand is just sides down.
If you look at this graph, right? So this is a year-over-year graph. And we're seeing that December, we have 239 new listings, but there's 690 listings on the market. So, and if we look back over, the last of 2022, you can see how the numbers, we're really not that much more homes on the market right now than we had October of 2022, but way less homes coming on the market. Now, this could change in January because obviously November, December tend to be the slowest months for people to put their listings on. Again, we go back to with sellers being at 3% or under on their mortgages, rates are going to have to come down some more.
Right. It really life events. That's all we're seeing, or people moving here from other areas, transfers, things like that. But.
Right. You can see listings are now below previous years. So we have less listings on the market than 2021, 2020, 2019, 2018, and 2017. So that's what's going to keep foreclosures from happening, even if people lose their jobs. Let's jump into that real quick, because that's a big deal that people are talking about is job loss. Well, most of the job loss are in the tech industry.
What's Miami? 1.7% unemployment, something like that. I mean, you get some, nationally it's way low, but in Florida in particular, it's extremely low.
Right.
So I just don't see it.
I don't either. So housing experts say sellers are absolutely having to negotiate. So let's get into this, because this is the key here for first-time buyers. I have people saying, oh, don't buy on my comments, right? The guy's just trying to sell houses. They just want to sell homes. Obviously, this is our job, right? I mean, this is what we do for a living, but I'm not out here trying to put people in a situation that's bad for them. And we never have done that. And you can go look at all of our clients where they've left testimonials and things on Google and see who we are. But with that being said, it is my belief and opinion that if rates get into the 5s, and it's going to become another buying frenzy. I just don't see it, how it can't happen.
They're going to see it, a lot of it's relative, right? So if you've seen 7.5 for, a few months, 3 months, and then you start seeing the 6s, and you, like you say, Lee, you get in the 5s and the low 5s, it's back on, because relatively it's from recent memory, it's much lower. To your point on this, in the slide you brought up here, sellers are absolutely having to negotiate. Well, right now we're seeing, like you see, FHA loans being accepted, where the FHA, VA financing.
Right, we haven't been able to do an FHA. I put a video last week. We haven't been able to do an FHA or VA loan in 2 years. I mean, there was no way of getting one done unless they're coming in with heavy cash, so they're not buying a VA loan for nothing down. And so right now, two things. Number one, new construction's given massive incentives. I was just at Mattamy today with a client. They're offering $40,000 on a villa in Tulare. 40 grand, right? This couple has a little bit of crusty credit, so you're going to end up with them, but we're going to get the deal done. They have cash and they have a job. You're talking about a $415,000 villa that they're getting $40,000 of flex cash. Yeah. I mean, that's just crazy money. And then you're seeing 25 to 35,000, 25,000 here at this builder. I mean, it's across the board, these builders. So when you go into the seller here with a existing home, they're going to have no choice but to do incentives. I mean, you're going to be able to ask for a seller credit. We're going to ask for the world. I mean, I'm not afraid to ask for 20 grand. I mean, we've gotten $15,000, $20,000 seller credits before in the past, depending on how much the house is. But we can, we can at least get someone 10 or 15,000 towards their closing costs or to buy down the rate. So what does 10 grand buy down these days?
Yeah, I mean, you're going to buy it down. Like, it depends on the loan amount, right? The loan
Right.
size, but you're buying the rate down in full, half or more, depending on the loan amount. It makes a difference over on the long haul, especially if
Well,
you're
it
going to
makes
keep
a
it for
difference right
25,
now
30
too
years.
for the amount
Yeah,
of house you can buy. So if
right.
if the house is a little out of their range and
Mhm.
we can buy the rate down, we put them in their range.
Well, Lee, 3 or 4 years ago, you were bringing deals to us all the time with seller credits when no one else was. You were negotiating those and getting people in homes. We were just, and I think that market is, coming back. And so I think, just having a realtor that understands the market and understands that, hey, this is where we can get the deals done and negotiate and put people in a great spot. Yeah, it's slowed down, it's softer, but there's an opportunity in that, and you got to understand what that opportunity is, which you do.
Right. And I mean, we're
Yeah.
not, if you're out there and you're waiting on the market to drop 40%, I mean, it's not going to happen.
No.
I mean, so home prices, unfortunately, because of what the Fed did, are going to remain high, especially in this state. They're not going to come down that much. So you're going to have to look for the credits and buying the rates down. But I think right now for first-time buyers, and we're seeing it, people are seeing it right now, that they have an opportunity to come in the market, take advantage of credits, and buy a home. And as you said before, and we marry the house, we date the rate.
Right.
And eventually rates are going to come down and be somewhere low fives or the fours, and you're going to be able to refinance. We're going to get back to some kind of reality here eventually. But we're going to be in the winter for a little bit. I was listening to Tony Robbins the other day, talked about being in the winter. It's going to be a little bit of winter, but in the winter, you can learn to ski and snowboard. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
Right.
which I'll
There's
be doing
opportunity in
with this week. I'll be doing. But the thing is that you have an opportunity right now to purchase a home and get into it without having a bidding war.
Right.
And I think that's really good for people. And you need to buy something that can fit your budget, and we can help you do that with credits.
Right.
So
that's the opportunity.
We've always been able to do it.
Yeah, that's the opportunity right now. It's good, just good to know, because it's
right. Because here's the other thing. This just came out by CBS Miami. Residential rents in Florida continue to rise, even though costs dropping in other states, new report finds. Right. So this is, from November, it's talking about, rents are still up, and we're seeing rents still up. I mean, it's very difficult to rent a house here. You're going to have really good credit. You're going to have first, last, and security, and they're going to want you to sign a year lease. And in a lot of cases I'm seeing on these leases, there's no way out of them. So if you want to buy a house in the middle of it, you're going to get cracked for at least a couple of months rent. If not, and even that, some of them aren't going to let you out.
Right.
And rents are very, very high right now.
They are. Yeah. We're doing those DSCR loans for investors right now, Lee, and we're still getting those done. In other words, the rents are paying for the principal
at
interest.
These rates, that's crazy, right?
Yeah, those are still. So try that anywhere else in the country. It's just not happening because the rents are higher.
Yeah. Right, and it says more builders are cutting prices and offering incentives, but still not to 2008 levels, because we're not in a buyer's market yet, and we might not go into one. If things keep moving here in South Florida, we're not going to go into one in Florida, period. When we're seeing some shakeout on the West Coast, I think that's more of a insurance deal and just hurricanes, but I mean, Tampa, Orlando, South Florida, Jacksonville, these markets are just nonstop. So let's talk about what's out there right now, what you can do for clients who are looking to buy with these incentives. Kind of give some understanding of how this helps you get a loan done and helps you help the client right now.
Absolutely. Well, a lot of times, people are short, like the down payment or closing costs or both. And so, by having the credit, certainly that we can, remove those off the closing sheet if the seller's going to pay for those costs, the closing costs, or help with the down payment. A lot of times we're doing gifts. A lot of times right now we're getting people that borrow from 401ks, things like that. But so these credits really help, from having to do that. You don't have to dip into your own funds. You can use that to buy down the rate, for example, you were referring to earlier. There's several strategies. You can do a 3-2-1 buy down, with a large enough credit. To give you an example, we're in the low sixes right now as far as conventional loans are concerned. You can buy that 3-2-1 buy down, can buy that rate down to 3.25 the first year, then it goes to 4.25, then 5.25, then the fourth year it goes back up to 6.25. So it's not an adjustable, where you're going to land for the last 27 years. But the first 3 years can be bought down. The opportunity in that, frankly, interest rates were, 3 or 4 months ago were 7.5, and now we're down to the 6.25 range. So you can get immediately those lower rates, and then as rates continue, I believe rates are going to continue to go down as the Fed pauses. Tomorrow there's going to be a 1/4 point bump to the rate. I can almost guarantee that. That's fully.
But that's not going to make mortgage rates go up. That's just affecting credit cards.
Credit cards, right? Anything tied to prime, so HELOCs, those would be affected. But the mortgage market, the long end of the curve, we talked about it earlier. The 10-year Treasury is yielding far less, than 0.7% less than a 2-year Treasury. In other words, the bond market knows that long term, it's better to lock in at 3.5% 10-year Treasury. That's a government bond. It's a borrower. It's the U.S. debt, if you will, right? Mm-hmm. Because they know rates are going to be going down, and that'll be a solid investment. We watch the Treasury auctions, by the way. They're coming in at A minus, B plus. I mean, there's a lot of activity, a lot of interest in those bonds at those prices. And so the bond market, which is this, I always say the bond market's the smartest guy in the room. And so
right.
They're the ones that watch this stuff day in and day out. They know which direction mortgage rates are headed, and in long-term yields and all that. So the bond market's pricing in a slowdown in the economy, and rates pausing certainly in the next no more than the next meeting. I think we might see a 1/4 bump at the next meeting, and after that they're definitely going into a pause for sure. And then we'll see, because there's a year lag on these rate hikes. We're 0.75, 0.75, 0.75. Those are strong hikes, and so I think that's pairing off, and then we're gonna wait and see. So great opportunity right now to buy down the rate that way, and then wait to refinance, next 2 or 3 years. That's one way. As you mentioned earlier, the FHA, the new the loan amounts are out. What Martin County, St. Lucie County is $500,000.
Right. So you buy a super nice house for that.
Really nice house, so that's
and I just want folks to understand here too, that 350 in Port St. Lucie is kind of gone. If
right.
You're looking at 350 in Port St. Lucie, you're going to be doing a lot of work to it, and it's probably going to have an older roof. So that is something to really think about. But with that being said, there are some townhomes coming to Tradition, and those are going to be in that price range. You will have an HOA, but it takes care of a lot for you. I think that's going to open up some ability for people to purchase less expensive home and live in Tradition. But as far as going into a non-HOA situation, 350 is a lot of work. It's going to be, it's a home that you're going to have some upgrades to do.
Lee, in Port St. Lucie, what's the spread on a frame home versus a CBS home right now? Like, what are you seeing out there as far as
it's always been about $50,000?
Yeah. And sometimes, people ask me, hey, I've seen this, I said, well, make sure, the construction and all that. And that's why I refer them to you to kind of set them straight, because
I haven't sold a frame home in a long time. I mean, it's been probably 3 years now since I sold one. It's one of those things where if the house is in really, really good shape, you're okay. There's building frame in Port St. Lucie still, so you can still insure a home that's frame. You're not going to get the same insurance as a block house, but it's not going to be that bad as long as the roof is good and you have hurricane shutters on it. And, it's protected. But other than that, personally, right now, I mean, you see what's happening. We're selling more new construction we ever sold ever.
Right.
I mean, we sold a ton last year, but now it's just like
With
everything
incentives,
we've gone into contract with this year has been new construction.
Yeah.
So with that being said, if you have any questions and you need for Brent, please leave a comment in the comment section. He's there for you. I'm also going to leave his information down in the information section below. Don't forget that I am a full-time real estate agent right here in South Florida and Brent's mortgage broker. So if you're looking to buy or sell a home anywhere in the Treasure Coast or Palm Beach County, my contact information is right there on your screen. Send me an email or log into my home site. We'd love to help you. And if you'd like to speak with Brent again, I'll leave his information in the information section below and a link to his YouTube site, because Brent has a YouTube site.
That's true.
And as always, please leave a comment with any questions or concerns you have. Let us know. Also, if you've been out there looking at homes and what you're seeing as far as inventory and new construction, because I'm on the road every single day. I'm seeing the market, and we're definitely seeing it pick up dramatically. Had an agent I was showing houses, and PJ Verano said she had 11 showings for 2 houses. So, I mean, it's unbelievable. People are out looking, new construction selling like crazy. So we'll, it's the market is moving. So again, if you've had you've been out there right now, you're looking at inventory, you're seeing homes, let us know how you're doing and what you're seeing. And then if you like this video, please give us a thumbs up, like this video. I really appreciate it. Lets me know I'm doing a good job and you're enjoying the content. Be kind to each other, and we'll see you next time.